this morning. I was taking a good look at the calves, and I do have a little diddly doodad calf with some kind of a BRD ear infection thing going on. And these calves, that little red one, I brought in a set of calves about 12 days ago. Today's Saturday, or today's Saturday, and it wasn't last week, or is today Friday? Today might be Friday, huh? It was today Saturday. I don't even know. It's Friday or Saturday. But I didn't bring them in this week. I brought them in last week, and so it's been about 12 days since they've been here. And one of the calves did end up with BRD. He got some kind of a BRD ear infection thing going on. And so this morning I gave him a shot of Zactran, and I also put him on a water-soluble chlorotetracycline. So I gave him a water-soluble chlorotetracycline. I gave him a water with chlorotetracycline in it, and then I also gave him a shot of Zactran. And I have him separated from the rest of the calves. And so I figured what I'm gonna do is I'll keep him on the chlorotetracycline, and I'll keep a good eye on him and make sure that he's doing okay. Make sure he's eating food. I'll put him in the. When I go home, I'm actually gonna put my trailer on my truck, and I'm gonna go ahead and just put him in the barn. And I'm gonna go pick up a bale of hay, and I'll put some hay out on the ground for him so he can sleep on it. And I'll put him in the barn, and I'll keep track of how much he's eating, and I'll keep track of how much he's drinking. And I did put antibiotics in his water as well. I did put some chlorotetracycline in his water as well. This BRD, a lot of times, I have not, to this day, I have not seen an animal get an ear infection and not get BRD, okay? Almost all the time, these cattle, when they get an ear infection, it has to do with BRD as well. They almost always end up developing BRD afterwards or beforehand, and then they get the ear infection, okay? And so the calf does have some kind of a BRD. I would reasonably believe that the calf has some kind of a BRD. And he's got his head real low, and he's got an ear drooping, and he's got nasal discharge out of one side of his face. But the good thing is that the calf did not get sick the moment he was here. He had been here for about 12 days before he got sick, and during those 12 days, he did visibly put on some weight. He did visibly put on some weight. I mean, he probably put on 30 pounds, 25, 30 pounds. And so in those 12 days, he probably put on about 20 pounds. And so at least he has some food in him. At least he has at least he has a little bit. Okay. He put on about 20 pounds before he got sick. And that's, this calf and this was a calf that was bawling when he first got here. And so when these calves get sick from weaning, if they get sick because of weaning, they usually end up getting sick about 2 to 4 weeks after the weaning process begins. And so I have this calf isolated. I have this calf separated. I'm not too worried about this calf. I do think I caught it in time, and I do believe that the calf will recover okay. And while the calf was in the pen with the other animals, I did realize that one of the animals is picking on him real bad. I do have that black Hereford calf that I bought, about a month ago. That black Hereford calf is actually picking on him real bad. And 3 weeks ago, I actually brought home a pair of Red Bulls. I brought home a pair of Red Bulls, and they are brothers from another mother, and they get along with the little calf very well. They get along with that little red calf that's sick right now. They get along with them real well. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the calf in the barn I'm gonna keep track of him for about 3 days. And I think he's gonna get better, okay? I do think he's gonna get better. I'm not too worried about it. He didn't get sick right when he got here. He was eating well the entire time, but this morning when I took a look at him, I could tell that he had BRD, okay? I could tell that he had BRD, and so I went ahead and I put him on antibiotics. But up until today, he was doing just fine, and he's eating and everything, and no problem. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put him in the barn for 3 days by himself. I'm going to keep track of him, make sure he's doing okay. And if he looks like he's doing okay, maybe I'll leave him in the barn for about 5 days. But when I'm completely certain that he is doing okay, I will let him out into the front yard. And then I will also get the 2 Red Bulls out into the front yard to hang out with them. So it'll be the 3 of them in the front yard, and the rest of the animals will be sitting in the backyard. And that'll let him because I need to keep that black Hereford calf away from the little diddly doodad calf that's sick. That black Hereford calf is picking on him, and so that's real rough on the calf. When you got a little 220-pound calf and a big old 350-pound calf is running around trying to knock him over, it gets and just following him around trying to knock him over, it gets real rough on the calf. And so I'm gonna separate them out. And I'm also gonna give that little calf that's sick, I'm gonna give him a couple of buddies to hang out with out in the front yard too. The two little Red Bulls, the brothers from another mothers, they get along with the little white red face, white face red calf. They get along with them real well. The three of them always hang out together, and you would think that the three of them were all brothers from another mother, but two of them are brothers from another mother, and then the one that's sick, I brought him about 2 weeks afterwards, a week afterwards, and so, but I think he's gonna be okay. I'm not too concerned about it. I think he's gonna be okay. I got him on a lot of antibiotics, and I'll keep a good eye on him. And these calves, their feed, I did start putting dolomite lime in their feed. Or excuse me, not dolomite lime. I started adding about 2 gallons of water. So I use about 100 pounds of distillers grains. I use about 3.5 pounds of dolomite lime, and then I also add about 2 gallons of water. And I mix in that water, and that water really clumps up or it doesn't clump up the feed. It really kills the dust. One thing that I found about this dolomite lime, it's very, very, very fine powder, and if you just slightly touch it, it puts a lot of dust up in the air. There's dust everywhere. It's a very dusty feed, and so that water, it really gets rid of that dust. I put about 2 gallons of water, so I use 4 buckets of distiller grains, which is about 100 pounds of distiller grains. I use about 3.5 pounds, or about 3.5 cups. I use 3.5 cups, and so 3.5 cups is how much is it? I forget exactly the measurement, but I know that I need to add 3.5 cups per I'm not exactly sure. I don't remember exactly what it weighs, but I know that I need to add 3.5 cups to 100 pounds of distiller grains. So I add 3.5 cups of dolomite lime to 100 pounds of distiller grains, and I also add 2 gallons of water, and then I mix that up, and it gets rid of the dust. It completely gets rid of the dust. And so that's one thing that I started doing this morning as well. So this whole thing about so the big idea with the money, and what am I looking to do with the money, right? I got a lot to get done over the next 3 months. So there are gonna be a lot of moving parts, and I will be making a very large sum of money. And so I figured that this is a very easy way to look at what I mean by and a couple of things that I thought about and got situated. So pool number 3, that is the check in my hand, right? Pool number 3 is the check in my hand, but pool number 3 is just the tip of the iceberg. If I used all the money, and to this point, I have even considered pulling all of that money out of the business and just holding on to it. I've even considered doing that, okay? But my whole thing about money, my whole thing about cash, is that if you have a good investment, you don't really need cash. If you legitimately have a good investment, if you have good investments, and if you have good investments, there's no reason, the cash doesn't do anything, okay? And this could be in my whole idea about a good investment. What makes a good investment a good investment? It has to be something that it's a stable asset. It needs to be something that is a legitimate asset. It cannot be like you're YOLOing weekly option contracts. It has to be a legitimate asset. Like the S&P 500 would be a legitimate asset. A large apartment building, a large rental unit would be a legitimate asset. A business that is producing positive cash flow would be a legitimate asset. I've always said that the whole thing about gizmos and gadgets and things like that, a lot of that stuff, it can't be some kind of a gizmo or a gadget, okay? It can't be and the whole thing about money, from what I have seen, the whole thing about money is that once you have in all honesty, the only time that you would, once you have, from what I have seen, once you have about $100 million, this is what I believe, okay? And this is also why it is my goal to get to $10 million a year, because I believe that in the whole idea of $10 million a year, with a legitimate asset, and I will have a lot of legitimate assets. I will have land, I will have my business, and I will have my cattle, right? That's a lot of legitimate assets, right? I mean, that's a lot of legitimate assets, okay? And at the end of the day, I also have money in my bank account for whatever that's worth, okay? My whole thing about $10 million a year and the $100 million net equity position, once you have from what I believe and from what I have reasonably seen, once you have a $100 million net equity stake, all right, if you legitimately have a $100 million net equity stake, like if you have a $100 million equity position in a good asset that is producing you a 10% return a year, it's producing you $10 million a year. At that point, it is effectively unlimited money. At that point, it's unlimited money. Okay, you got $100 million put away on some asset that's producing you 10% a year, right? So you're making about $10 million a year. And I use the idea of a private jet for this, and it doesn't have to be a private jet. It can be anything. All right, it can be anything. All right, you don't have to buy a $40 million private jet. I just used the $40 million private jet as an example. Okay. Realistically, you can buy whatever. All right. Once you have about $100 million in equity and it's producing you a 10% return, it's effectively unlimited money. Okay. And the whole idea of the private jet, it's like if you go and you buy yourself a $40 million private jet and they charge you 8% a year, that's $5 million a year. That's $4 million a year. Whatever it may be, $5 million a year. And your asset is producing $10 million a year. You still have $5 million left over, and if you take that $5 million and you put it into a good asset, I mean, it's still, and you make you put it in the S&P 500, or you find yourself another, you could legitimately buy yourself a private jet, and you could invest another $5 million a year. And if you invest money, the whole idea of investing money is to make a return on capital, right? Purchase a good asset, and that's the whole thing about holding on to good assets, right? Because when you have a good asset, the asset itself is worth money. All right. It may not be cash, but it's worth money, and you can hold it for collateral. It's good collateral. You can hold it for collateral. That's very important, right? It gives you access to a lot of money to have equitable assets. Okay. And, cattle are a good asset. Land is a good asset. A business is a good asset. A business that's making money is a good asset. Okay. All businesses are not good assets. A majority of businesses fail. Okay. If you consider the reality that a lot of people don't make hardly anything, barely make enough money to get by, and also a lot of people also end up losing money. When you consider all of this, a majority of assets are not good assets. Okay. But once you have about $100 million put away, once you have about $100 million in some kind of an equitable asset and it's producing you 10% a year, that's effectively, at that point, you now have effectively unlimited money. And the only time that you would ever realistically, from my just belief system, the only time that anybody would ever look to have more money than that, from reasonably, because after that point, what does it even matter? It doesn't. More money's not going to do anything. Why would you go and look to make 15 times the amount of money that you have? If it, why would you risk, to go and make whatever, right? I mean, it's not, at that point, it's effectively unlimited money. Okay. Once you have about $100 million and it's producing you a 10% return, you now effectively have unlimited money. Because even if you spend $5 million a year and, you have $5 million left over, you could invest that $5 million and you could still grow your asset portfolio. And that $5 million that you invest would probably, granted that you bought some kind of a good asset, would even make you more money. And so, the whole thing about, having things like real estate and having things like buildings, and even a cattle or a business, is that you get good tax benefits, right? You get good tax write-offs, and et cetera, et cetera. You get good tax benefits for that. And the whole thing about making money with money is that it has to be money that is made as a return on capital. It cannot be something that you worked for. It cannot be something that you sold. It cannot be something that, and this includes stocks. Like if you have to sell stocks to make money, then, to have money, then, that doesn't count either. Okay. It has to be, like your stock went up in value. You made a 3% dividend on your stock, and the P/E ratio of the company was, is sitting at it's a good company, and the P/E ratio is sitting at 22, and you made a 3% dividend. All right, something like that. It has to be a return on capital. It cannot be something that you sold. It cannot be something that you worked for. It has to be a return on capital. That's the only caveat. That's the only caveat, and that will help you understand how to make money with money. That's the whole idea, to develop an understanding of how to make money with money. Because once you understand how to make money with money, everything just kind of becomes like a what the heck. Like, so I don't even need money. I can just accumulate assets and make money off the assets, and everything just kind of becomes like this what the heck type situation. All right, it becomes like a magic trick. It becomes like a smoke and mirrors magic trick. It's like everything costs nothing. Everything makes me money. Everything makes me money. This doesn't cost me anything. These cattle, they don't cost me anything. All right, the food doesn't cost me anything. The grass doesn't cost me anything. Everything costs me nothing. This actually makes me money. All right, so that's the only caveat. You have to make money as a return on capital. It cannot be like you sold your stock and and you traded your equity for capital. It can't be like that, okay? It has to be a return on capital. Like you have an apartment building, right? I've used this as an example. You have an apartment building and you raised the rents. That is a return on capital. You intentionally made a return on your money by increasing the rents. Right now, the equity value of the building is higher. You bought a building that was kind of distressed, and you repaired it, and it had a 15% vacancy rate. But when you repaired it, you managed to fill out 10% more of the rooms. So now you have a 5% vacancy rate, and you increased the rents by $100. Each renter now pays $100 more. That is a return on capital. That granted that when you worked, when you fixed the building, you worked for, but ultimately, it's the equitable evaluation of the building that's the return on capital. Okay, that is money that you made by investing money. All right, and the whole thing about pool number 3 and how I plan to utilize pool number 3 is that I was actually thinking about this, and this is a good way to look at it. Pool number 3, the amount of money that is in pool number 3 is just the tip of the iceberg. Even if I used all of the money in pool number 3, I could still grow my business by leveraging against my assets. Because the cattle that I still have, right? If I sell 5 cattle, if I sell 15 cattle, but I still have 120 cattle at home. Let's say I have 140 cattle and I sell 15 of them. I still have 125 cattle at home, right? The 15 cattle that I sold would have made me whatever, 40 grand, right? Or whatever, 35, 40 grand, something like that. It would have made me 35, 40 grand, but I still have my 125 cattle at home. And the 125 cattle are worth money, and they are increasing in value all the time. Granted that I am actually focused on running my business and taking care of the animals. I can leverage against that unrealized gain in the cattle herd to continue to grow my business, even though I use all of the money in pool number 3. All right. I can actually, I've even been thinking about pulling all of the money out of pool number 3 and just holding on to it. I've even considered doing that, not reinvesting it. But I told myself I am going to go for it, okay? I am going to reinvest everything. And when I reinvest the money that I make, there is a profit margin when I make money. When that check in my hand has a profit margin on it. And when I reinvest that money, I do need to leverage against that as well to keep my balance sheet at an 80% leverage. And that's going to get difficult, but I am going for it. All right. I'm not going to not try. Okay. I am going to go for it. Okay. Even if it's difficult, I am still going to go for it. And if I legitimately if I legitimately just it's getting to be too much and I can't do it, I can just pull a couple $100,000 out of the business and invest with straight debt. Okay, I can pull $500,000 out of the business and just invest with straight debt until I get a handle on the situation. But that is pool number 4. And pool number 4, I'm not going to intentionally put money in it, but I would reasonably anticipate that pool number 4 ends up with money. All right, I am going to do my absolute best. I believe that I have, I got all this going on, and I am going to do my best to invest all the money. I will go for it, okay? But if it turns out that I'm legitimately splitting my chops open, I got 5 people working on 5 different things. I got veterinarians giving shots to animals. I got a guy building a barn. I got a guy drilling a well. I got a guy fixing a fence. I got a guy flying a drone all over the place. And I'm sitting there in my new truck, and I still just have whatever, just large sums of money. Whatever, a couple $100,000, not even a large sum of money. If I'm starting to get behind. And I'm like, oh man, I did all this stuff. I built a new barn. I bought myself a new piece of land. I bought myself a new truck. I bought I'm drilling a well. I got a guy out here, giving all my animals shots. And I got a guy out here fixing a fence, and I got a guy building a barn, and I got a guy flying a drone all over the place. And I'm still just not able to invest the couple $100,000. And also, if I invested my $200,000 that I made, I would also have to leverage against it. That would push my equity position. That would push my equity proportion higher. All right, that would push the amount of equity that I have in my balance sheet as a proportion of my balance sheet. It would push that percentage higher. And so, I would be looking to leverage against the earnings as well. Okay. And if that happens, which it might, I will pull the money, I'll pull a couple $100,000 out of the business at a time, whatever, it will probably have to be at least $100,000. I will pull that money out of the business, and I could do it whatever, once a month or whatever. And I could pull that money out of the business, and I could just invest with straight debt. And hopefully, but even if I do that, there is a possibility, like if I end up with 350 cattle, if I end up with 350 cattle and I'm selling 30 a month, if I end up with 350 cattle and I'm selling 60, 70 cattle a month, that'd be about 175, 200 grand. And if that starts to happen and I have to start investing like $500,000 a month, I probably won't be able to do it. And even if I pulled the 200 grand out, I don't know if I could even, let's say that I make $200,000 a month, but my herd is appreciating by $400,000 or $500,000 a month. I don't know if I could even invest $500,000 a month by just investing straight debt. I don't know if I'd be able to even do that. And if I can't do that, then no matter what, my equity position will continue to increase. The equity proportion that I have will continue to increase, even though I am investing several $100,000 worth of debt every single month. And so this is also what I mean by it's going to turn into a massive, major project. Like if I legitimately go for this thing, which I am going for it, this is going to turn into a major project very quickly. All right, and realistically, I probably need to even buy myself about 250 acres of land just to get to the 2.5 million mark, and then, I'll be looking to buying up more land. But as long as I am looking to invest all of my money, and as long as I am looking to grow my business, as long as I'm looking to do that, and I am going for it, this is going to turn into a very big project very quickly, a very large scale project very quickly. All right, and I may be able to get over 10 million. I wouldn't, but I don't know. My whole thing is I may go over $10 million a year in 2 years. But my whole thing is that what I got on the plate right now is that over the next 7 months, I will probably end up with about 150 cattle. I will end up with about 120, 140, 150 cattle, something like that over the next 6 or 7 months. And that's the big thing that I got on the plate right now. And I'm not concerned about investing all of the money in pool number 3. I'm okay with doing that. I'm also not going to utilize debt to pay out bonuses. This is something that I was thinking about. I'm not going to use any kind of debt to pay out bonuses because that would not be good for the business. But the pool number 3, I would be willing to to pay out bonuses with pool number 3. All right, and also pool number 4. Okay, like if I'm, if I, realistically, if I have, if I end up with pool number 4, I would be willing to pay bonuses with pool number 4. Okay, I would be willing to pay bonuses out with pool number 4, but I am not going to utilize debt to pay out bonuses. That's not a good idea. That's one thing that I thought about. And you know, the whole thing about my situation, I'm not asking for anything from anybody. Legitimately, I'm not asking for anything from anybody. Like, I don't know how else to put this. I don't care if you died, okay? It doesn't mean anything to me, okay? I'm not gonna say it doesn't mean anything. I don't want you to die, okay? I just got a call. I got a call from a guy that okay, let me get this out of the way. Okay, so but I don't want money from anybody. Okay, I don't want money from anybody. It doesn't mean anything to me. Money. I'm saying money. Money. After a certain point, money is not the motive. Okay. My whole thing about money and what I see in money. All right. If you're legitimately looking to, if you're legitimately looking to like do something big, all right, like if you're legitimately looking to like shoot rocket ships at Mars, or you're looking to build robots, then sure, more money is something that realistically, that after $100 million that could be utilized. All right, but after, at about $100 million at a 10% return, it's effectively unlimited money, unless you're looking to do something like shoot rockets at Mars, or build robots, or set up some kind of a global distribution system for whatever it is that you're doing. If you're looking to do something like that, sure, more money does make sense, okay? And will I get there? Maybe I will. My whole thing about cattle is that cattle are a global commodity, and the beef is food, and people need food, okay? Your beef doesn't just fall out the sky and land on a grocery store shelf, all right? Beef doesn't just magically fall out the sky. And people need food, and people need food, okay? So beef, it doesn't just fall out the sky. And so, maybe and my whole thing right now is that it's whatever to me. Right now, my big thing on the plate is that over the next year, I'm looking to make myself about $2.5 million next year. All right, I'm looking to net myself about $2.5 million. And how will I do that? I'll be looking to run about 1,000 cattle. I'll be looking to run about 1,000 cattle next year. My whole thing about running 1,000 cattle is that right now I run about 150, 200 cattle a year, and I am not having any difficulties at all, okay? I'm not having any kind of difficulty, zero trials or tribulations. I'm not having any kind of a difficult situation at all. So I figured I might as well go for it. And I'm going to go for 1,000. And if I run 1,000, I'll end up making about $2.6 million. All right. And that would create a reasonable foundation for me to push my business to about $10 million the next year. I'll have to see when I get there. Okay. I'll have to take a look at when I get there. And I have reasonable objectives that need to be met along the way for me to be able to do this, right? Like I'm reasonably probably going to have to buy another 200 acres of land, or find myself 200 acres of land. All right. I'll probably end up buying it just because, well, even if I find more land, I will end up buying more land simply because the money in pool number 3 doesn't really matter. Okay, and the money that I put into real estate, the interest is tax deductible, and the principal, I can borrow that back out, and banks love lending for and against real estate. Okay, so it doesn't really matter to me. The money in pool number 3, even if I used all of it to buy real estate, whatever it is, 35, 40 grand, that money, even if I used all of the money in pool number 3, it doesn't matter, because pool number 2 is my largest source of money. All right, the rest of my animals will still continue to gain in value, and granted that I have a reasonable appraisal value for the asset, granted that I have a reasonable appraisal value for my herd, I can leverage against that unrealized gain and continue to grow my herd, even though I'm pulling all of the money out of pool number 3. All right, and just to put things in perspective, if I do get to a situation where I am running 350 cattle at a time, if I am running 350 cattle at a time, divide that by 7. I mean, we're effectively talking about me running about selling about 50 cattle a month, right? So I'd be selling about 50 cattle a month. I'd be making about somewhere around 125 grand a month, and that would be the check in my hand, okay? And even if I sold those 30 cattle, even if I sold those 50 cattle, even if I sold those 50 cattle, I would still have 300 cattle left at home, right? And so if I sold 50 cattle, if I have 350 cattle and I sell 50 and I make 125 grand, I still have 100, I still have 300 cattle left, right? I still have 300 cattle left. And those 300 cattle are worth money, and chances are they are going up in value, granted that I am doing my part in taking care of the animal properly, okay? And I can leverage against that unrealized gain to continue to grow my business, even though I pull all of the money out of pool number 3 and utilize that money to buy real estate. And if it turns out that I legitimately need the money in pool number 3, if I legitimately need the money in pool number 3, I can take a loan against the real estate. Or I guess technically at that point it'd be pool number 5. I can take a loan against the real estate and utilize the money. But chances are I'm not going to be leveraged to the eyeballs. I mean, I'll be investing the cash that I make, pool number 3. It doesn't matter if my business is growing and the size of my herd is growing. The animals are gaining in size, and the number of animals that I have is increasing, right? Then the unrealized gain, the pool number 2 is increasing in size. And if pool number 2 is producing me more than 50 animals worth of unrealized gain on a monthly basis, 300 animals would be 300 pennies. All right, would be $3, right? It would be 300 pennies. 300 pennies will produce me probably 300 pennies would produce me like 60, it'd produce me like 60 pennies a month, okay? And so I would still be able to sell the 50 animals, utilize all the money, and invest into 60 more animals, and that would just keep my balance sheet at 80% leverage. But here's the thing. If I'm not, and this is also what I mean by as long as I don't YOLO the money, which I won't, all right? Now, how do you even spend $125,000 a month? It's not possible, okay? It's not possible, for me to legitimately spend $125,000 a month. Like, if I was going to think about doing that, it'd have to be like gambling and drugs and like 25 girlfriends at the same time. All right, it's not possible to spend $125,000 a month. It's not. Even if I had a $5 million house, if I had a $5 million home and I utilized and I paid 20% down for it, I mean, even that would only be like $20,000 a month. I would still have $100,000 a month left over, okay? And let's say that I go and I buy myself a new truck and whatever, and that's not going to cost, I would still reasonably have like $80,000. Even if I used $20,000 a month, I would still have $80,000 left over, right? And if I have 60 animals worth of net positive equity as an unrealized gain in my herd, and I have $80,000 and I'm sitting on 80% leverage, if I take my $80,000 and I go and buy myself another 60 cattle, I would be looking to leverage for another 60 cattle, and then I would also leverage against pool number 2. I would actually still have to buy about 180, 200 cattle. I would still have to buy like 150, 200 cattle just to keep myself at an 80% leverage on my balance sheet. And this is what I mean by it's going to turn into a major project very quickly, okay? And I am going for it. I've decided that I'm going for it. But that's a very reasonable way of looking at it. Let's say that I have 350 animals and I'm selling 50 animals on a monthly basis. Those 50 animals would make me almost $125,000, something like that. $140,000, okay? And I would still have 300 animals sitting at home. Those 300 animals would have realistically produced me about 60, let's just say 50 animals worth of money, just to give it a conservative estimate, because you never know what happens. Maybe I use some money somewhere, whatever. But even if I used money, I could have used it out of the check in my hand. It doesn't matter. But let's just say 50 to give it a conservative estimate. So I still have 50 animals worth of net positive equity that I need to leverage against. That money is sitting in pool number 2. I have not paid myself that money, but that money is there, and it is there as an unrealized gain in my cattle herd, okay? So I got 50 animals worth of net positive equity, right? And I have a check in my hand for $140,000. Let's say that I bought myself a $5 million house and, I took a $4 million loan for it. I bought myself a $5 million property and I paid $4 million. I paid a million down and I took a loan for 80% of it, right? And even if I did that, I mean, it would be a massive piece of land. It would be like I would have my house and I would also probably have like 400 acres on it, 350 acres, okay? And so, and if I had 350 acres and a big piece in a house, I mean, I would make more money on that land, okay? And so, the whole thing, I would have to invest 50 cattle more worth of money by leveraging against pool number 2. I would, out of the $140,000 that I make, let's say that I used out of the $135,000 that I made, let's just say it's 120, just to give it a conservative estimate. Let's say that let's say that I used $50,000 in a month, which would be ridiculous. I mean, that's too ridiculous. So let's say that I used $40,000 in a month. That would still leave me with like $100,000 worth of money, right? And so for me to invest all of the money, keep my balance sheet at 80%, I would have to invest the $80,000. I would have to leverage against it. And then I would also leverage against the unrealized gain of my cattle herd. All right. It would be a ridiculous, it would be a massive project. Like, and I don't exactly know how, but I'm going for it. Okay. I'm going for it. I'm not concerned about it. I've always told myself, and I've told myself, if it comes down to it, I can start investing with straight debt and just holding on to the cash. I can just hold on to the cash. If that's what it comes down to, I can just hold on to the cash. And I can always invest the cash on a later date when I see an opportunity to do so. And I can invest with straight debt if that's what it comes down to. And I can invest I can take a look at my balance sheet and see what my leverage percentage is and things like that. And I can figure it out. But it's going to turn into a massive project very quickly. I would reasonably anticipate that I have about 150 cattle by about March or April of next year. And reasonably by the end of next year, I'm looking to run about 1,000 cattle. And at 1,000 cattle, at $2,600 an animal, that's a $2.6 million, okay? That's what I'm looking to go for. And the reason that I'm going for that is because right now I'm running about 150, 200 cattle, and I'm not having any problems, okay? And so I figured I'm going for it, okay? I'm not having any problems. I don't have any trials. I don't have any tribulations. I make a large amount of money and it's whatever. So I'm going for it. Okay. I'm going for it. I figured I need to try it. I'm going for it.